Hello, and welcome back to this week's panel conversation on Together We Feel. I'm your host, Melissa Crook, and today we're going to talk about women's health and specifically really dive into perimenopause and menopause. But 25 to 35-year-old women, before you turn off the dial, you need to hear this too. There's information here that you're going to want to know. There's things on here that you're going to be able to use right now. So stay tuned because I've got a powerhouse panel here with me today. Michele Folan, Troy and Debbie Sutton. Yes, we got a guy here today too. Ladies, stay tuned. Kim Moseman and Alison Bladh. And they all bring a plethora of resources and information and their own stories to this conversation. So, welcome all of you to Together We Feel. I'm thrilled to have you here with us today. We're going to start with Michele. Michele, give us some background on you and why you wanted to be here today.
Yeah, so I've known Melissa for a while now. I also have a podcast. It's called the Asking for a Friend podcast. And it's really a midlife driven podcast for women where we discuss health, wellness, relationships, and really just about everything in between there. We talk about careers as well. But I kind of went through my own journey through menopause and decided I needed a little help. So I also became a health and fitness coach after I went through my own coaching experience. And I wanted to be here today because, first of all, I think Melissa's amazing. I love what she is doing here. And I now have quite a bit of experience in this space, not only with doing the podcast, but also with coaching and finding that women in this phase of life, particularly since I'm almost 61, most of my clients are in their 50s and 60s. They're not just worried about how they present on the outside, they're also worried about their metabolic health because now they're starting to get bad report cards from their doctors. And they need to start thinking about what they're going to do in regard to their fitness and nutrition to turn the tide on that.
Yeah, Michele and I joke all the time about the fact that we're doing this, and she said it first, and I'm with her. We're doing this for our 80-year-old selves. We want to be able to get up and off the floor when we fall down. We want to be able to pick up our grandkids and run around from them and not be inhibited by that. And also, huge shout out to Michele. She made this career shift at 59 years old, and which just never, and I love that part of your story. And I think we should talk about that more because it's never too late to rediscover yourself. She spent 27 years?
Yeah, I was almost 27 years in the pharmaceutical and med device world. So I have experience in metabolic health, diabetes, cardiovascular health. So this age group is of great interest to me, not only because I am almost 61, but because I do understand the impact of these diseases on women our age.
And I think too, another interesting thing that I want to point out is Michele's gotten to live on both sides of the fence with this, with a more traditional Western medicine versus what she's learned about a more holistic approach, the role food plays in this, the role getting to the why behind it and not just throwing a pill at it. She has a very unique lens. So she's able to see all the pros and cons of both sides of that. And that's really enriching her conversations. Check out her podcast. I mean, there is a plethora of information. I learn things all the time. I'm always telling her, oh my gosh, I listened to this one. You guys heard me when I got on. I just learned something new yesterday. That is not only helpful, I think, for midlife women, but I think it's going to be helpful for my 26-year-old daughter. So check out.
And that's a great point. Is sometimes you've had this thing that's been nagging you, mm-hmm. and you're not quite sure what it is, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I think I just figured it out. Because if we're not talking about it,
yes,
with a healthcare provider, and half the time they don't know. So it's these conversations that we're having now that really does help us uncover some of the root of what we're dealing with.
Yeah, I'm able to pick out great recipes from Alison. I'm able to take the things I learn on Michele's podcast, write them in Kim's journal, and go to my doctor. And how, I mean, so yeah, I have my healthcare teams right here, and now I've got a great bra I can choose from when my breasts get tender. So this is a a quadruple win for me. All right, Troy and Debbie Sutton, our powerhouse mother son team. Talk to us about why you're here today and this wonderful thing that every woman needs to know about that you're doing.
Okay, I'll let you start.
Sure. Well, thank you so much. And as the only guy here, I have to say I am absolutely honored to be on such a panel of incredible women. So we are here because we are the inventors and the co-founders of the Healing Bra, which is a patented bra that comes with special therapeutic healing pads that can be heated in the microwave and or cooled in the refrigerator or freezer and then inserted into the bra in order to help relieve breast pain and discomfort.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
So good.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
Debbie, give some background here.
oh, well, I guess I can tell my story of how this light bulb moment came to be. I had gotten my annual mammogram, and it was a particularly uncomfortable one. And I had some redness and soreness on my ribs on the left side. And so when I got home to my family of guys, sitting around watching a game, football game, and Troy asked, "How'd it go, Mom?" I said, "Well, I'm hurting a little bit," and he got nervous, thinking it was something, like not a good diagnosis. But I said, no, I'm fine. It's just that, it's not a pleasant experience. And I explained to him about what the experience is like as best I could to a panel of guys. Anyway, boy had a light bulb moment when I said, if you guys had to take and put on a table and have it squashed between two plates, I think they would develop something better. Anyway, Troy had a light bulb moment. He went and checked and looked online to see if there was anything like specifically made for breast pain. And there wasn't anything that he could find. And so voila, the moment is, we're into it now. And that I'm so proud of that moment that he had.
Well, and Troy, tell people what you do, because this there's some knowledge in the background here that enables you to be able to do this.
Absolutely. So I grew up in a family of doctors, but I am the black sheep engineer of the group. And I was always very interested in bioengineering and biomechanics. And my career goal, I wanted to design prosthetics for war vets to play sports. So that was really my career goal. And then I just had this idea with mom and we've really turned it into a good product that, women have said has really helped them. And so in addition to the goal of putting a bra in the hands of every woman who needs one, what we're also really trying to do is build a community that women can access in order to have open conversations where they can share experiences with women on similar journeys. And we're also able to kind of bridge the gap by offering different resources and programs, and that's through the partnerships that we've created with different nonprofits and breast cancer organizations and menopausal organizations as well. So that's really the goal is of the Healing Bras is to help relieve breast pain and discomfort, but also create a wonderful community where women are open to conversations and asking questions and learning more.
Yeah, this is such a key component of what you're doing here, because we all know, as with all of you, like Michele and I have on our own podcast, and you all being on with me and your own other things that you do, that opening space for safe conversations is key. Women have so many of these experiences in isolation, or we just assume, oh, it's just part of the experience. I mean, I will tell you, Troy and Debbie. So, my husband and I have been married for almost 32 years, three daughters and me. So, he's the flip of you. He's living with all girls and a girl dog. So, he has the flip of the experience. He and I talk about these things all the time. He's a great girl dad. He's very informed. He's not afraid to go in and buy period products. I mean, all the things. But he was here still, yes, a couple of mornings ago when I was talking with Troy and Debbie, and he could hear one side of the conversation. And he's like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And he has a mom that was very open. She had two bouts of breast cancer, was very open about her experience and things that she had to go through. And he's like, "How hard do they squeeze you?" And I'm like, "Oh, you feel it. It's a squeeze. Like, it's not just a gentle, it is a squeeze. And he's like, my God. I'm like, I know. That's the point. So, just continuing these conversations and having men be part of the conversations and informing them and taking the narratives of this. Shh, we can't talk about that here. That's not for this space. That's private. Well, so many times that's
Mhm.
private is it's a way to shut you down instead of allowing you to speak. And yes, of course, there are things that are private, but also there are things that we've been told are private that a lot of women are living in isolation, feeling like they're the only one having that experience, when in fact, that is not true. There's a whole tribe of millions of women out there that are having this experience. And this is such a great example of improving the quality of that experience, whether it's monthly breast pain from your period, mastitis, nursing pain that comes on, menopausal pain and tenderness. I had breast cysts during my perimenopausal phase, or just getting the heck squeezed out of your boobs when you go for your mammogram. I mean, there's just so many things. Um, Debbie, tell them how you've used it to help with hot flashes.
Oh, well, yeah, I was just going to jump in and say, not to mention hot flashes. I mean, uh, how many of us have, run out into the winter, open the door, and just to get some cool air to just cool down? I wish I had them right now because I might be getting a little flushed as we're speaking. And just think about being able to put a cooling pad inside your bra, which would really help with, eliminate, the flushing that we get through our necks and our faces. I remember that happening to my mom, where she would just go, pink, and she was burning. And we only talked about it because we were girls. No one else was talking about it back then. But now I'm so honored to be able to be part of a network of women, not only where we're dealing so much with breast cancer foundations as well for their surgeries, pre and post, and
Sure.
all of that. But for this is so great. Who talks about menopause? I mean, who did in the past? I think
Yeah.
it's wonderful. And I think, you know, it's kind of a joke. Women open a freezer and stand there, but it's not a joke. It's
Yeah.
something that it's real. We're going through it. And it doesn't just happen like at a convenient time. It's happening all throughout your day. So like we could be on TV right now and being videotaped, and I could start to just go red. But if I had those little pads, I could just, help with that. And I think it's wonderful. And we just want to get the word out and, and help as many women as we can.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important to mention too, before we move on to Kim and get her and Allison, is that these are engineered in a way that they're not a shock to your system. Like, you're not putting on the
Oh,
cold and you're like, oh, I mean, it's got a gel. I mean, Troy has used all of his
yes.
good knowledge here to give you kind of a gradual comfort that will also last a little longer, but also not like shock you, like, oh, oh, perky, we
Yeah,
woke up
no.
now. I mean, it's
Right.
very gradual. And also with the warm, not like, it's not gonna like, that's so warm. I mean, so it's really smartly engineered that way as well. So I'm sure there's gonna be plenty of questions for you all. So hold tight. Kim, welcome back, my friend. Kim is our veteran panelist here. But talk to me, give some background for people that haven't heard from you before on how you got here into this journey and what you've created out of it, and why you wanted to be here today.
Well, I'm excited to be back. Every time's like a new time, and I love the different subjects and the ways that we can share and help. I am Kim, and I wrote a book called Reflections of Joy: Learning to Love the Woman I See While Becoming the One You're Meant to Be. And the follow-up book to that was my owner's manual, which was born out of my experience as a personal trainer and a nutritionist. I had my own little boutique gym where we taught fitness, group fitness classes. And, when you meet the same 30 people at 5 o'clock every morning, you become family and you start to share. And, we had people who were 20 going through the problems they go through, and women who were in their 50s going through the problems they go through. And then I started to experience my own situation. And as girlfriends, we share what worked for me. And, you try all the things, whether it's over the counter or ask your doctor for this or that. But through my own experience, I learned that there really are a good set of questions to ask your doctor. And it's important to advocate for yourself, to ask what all the options are. And so that's with my owner's manual. I keep track of my health and my body every day, and not in great detail, but when your doctor asks you, well, okay, so how long have you had your period? Well, I know exactly how many months I've had my period during perimenopause. And then I knew exactly how many days I had not had my period during menopause. And so I think it's important to keep track of our bodies and our lives, and just no one's going to advocate for you the way you can.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think it's important. Good girlfriend time teaches us that there are questions to ask, and that we need to stand up for ourselves, I think.
Yeah.
So,
you just explained Michelle's podcast title, Asking for a Friend. It comes out of these conversations that you're talking about.
Mhm.
And I think, the space you get into, and I love, what you've done with Reflections of Joy, of being able to take all those pieces and parts and vulnerabilities of the experience, but find the joy in it. Follow Kim on socials simply for the fact she takes these beautiful morning walks along the ocean. And oh my word, the sunrises are incredible. And she has some really, really wise messaging that goes along with it. But you were able to see in all these different seasons of your life the pros and cons of these approaches, the things that are coming up, the things we weren't talking about, how you had to kind of adjust in your own journey when you didn't have the gym anymore, and what that looked like as you started noticing your own body changing. And you speak about this so honestly and so empathetically, and it's really beautiful what you've brought to bear. And like I said earlier, I've got my whole medical advisory board here with all this information. I learned from Michele, I journal about it from Kim, and I get great recipes from Alison. And now I've got a bra I can buy where that I can have to help with the breast discomfort. So I'm winning here all by myself, and I know you're all going to feel that way too. All right, Alison. Um, Tell us why you're here. Alison's been with me on the podcast before, so you met her in season 5, and she's got her own journey and how she decided that this group of women, this age group, was one that she really wanted to focus on helping. And she's going to tell you and teach you how your food can taste good and be healthy.
Oh, thank you, Melissa. It's a pleasure to be here. It's so wonderful to meet you all. Yeah, I mean, my long story short, my journey started actually when I was a teenager, and my love of hormones started then because I had acne. I had very bad skin when I was a teenager, which, I mean, it's hard enough being a teenager as it is, isn't it? Without suddenly developing a face full of acne. And that kind of led me down the road of, why is this happening? Even at that age, I was very interested to know what was going on with my body, and could I have any effect on it by thinking about what I ate, lifestyle, etc. And I did change what I was eating, and I saw a difference, and that really triggered my interest in hormones. And initially, I trained as an esthetician, so a beauty therapist, specifically working with skin that had hormonal problems. And that, of course, attracted many clients that were in 40 plus perimenopause, because there's a lot that goes on, isn't there, then, particularly in the skin as well. And also, I vividly remember seeing like my mother and, all the females around, like my mother's friends and all of those that were in this kind of phase, really struggling. And nobody spoke about it. It was just, it was called the change. I mean, I grew up in the United Kingdom, and it was very much very like, no, you absolutely don't talk about that. You just like suffer through it. And, my mom, I can remember her buying, she had this like array of different supplements, that she just used to take because she thought they'd help. But she'd have hot flashes, like we were saying, opening the fridge, standing there. Didn't get any help whatsoever, really, really suffering. And, I became more and more interested in this area. And then I realized that, even though, of course, working aesthetically can be very beneficial, but you need the inside piece as well. So that's when I went back to university and studied nutritional science and studied functional medicine. So now that when I work with clients, I work using functional medicine, like peeling back the layers of an onion, using nutritional therapy to really support women. And it is amazing what you can do with the power of nutrition. Really is quite outstanding how you can just make someone feel so much better just by changing their diet. And it's not about restriction in the slightest. It's just about eating nourishing foods that are delicious and getting rid of just all the junk and all the processed foods that our human body was not meant to eat. We're kind of living in this toxic food environment that our bodies weren't meant to be in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you really talk to, the seasonings you use, but you have a very holistic approach. So talk to people a little bit about your approach. It's not just about food. You talk about the whole person.
Yes, nutrition obviously is a big piece of it, but I work with the concept of nutrition, lifestyle, medicine, because that, to feel great, you have to really get all the pieces in place. Looking at what you eat, the lifestyle, what are you doing on a daily basis, and also your mindset. Because I think as we age as women and come into menopause, there's a lot of things that go on, aren't there, mentally, emotionally. Some of them due to the decline in hormones, but also it's that kind of, you start looking back, don't you, and thinking, oh, what have I done with my life? I should be doing this, should be doing that. I see some women sometimes just totally change their lives and sell up everything and, go and buy a camper van and drive across the outback of Australia. It's just brilliant. I think it's fantastic, but it's a real turning point in women's lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And she has just such a great approach. And you've got a book coming soon. So be on alert for that. Allison's, got a book coming soon. So we're going to be excited to see that. And you're going to want to follow Alison. She's involved in all kinds of really insightful things throughout Europe that she's been on panels on. She's been teamed on and featured in other things that have already been written. And she's just doing really important work for women in a really holistic, healthy way. So y'all have got a chance to hear from each other and hear you got on those paths. So I'm going to go back to Michele and give you and you're each going to get this opportunity. Are there any questions or statements that you want to make to any or all of our panelists?
Yeah. So I was thinking about kind of my own journey through perimenopause. And, I have a bit of a science background, but I had no idea that the sleeplessness, waking up at 3 a.m. with horrible anxiety, I had no idea that was perimenopause. And then, you throw a hysterectomy on top of that. Mm-hmm. So you're in immediate menopause and you're like, whoa. And the body shifts and everything. And so first of all, Kim, I have to say this. So a friend of mine reached out to me not too long ago and we were chatting. She said, my mouth is burning. I am so uncomfortable. My dentist doesn't know what it is. My primary care doctor doesn't know what it is. And I said, Christine, I think that is one of the signs of menopause. She goes, well, I haven't had a period in forever. I'm finished with all that. And I said, no, you are, it is. And burning mouth syndrome is a sign of menopause. And so she was floored, right? And so it's documenting and keeping track of those things that whoever heard of that, right? But there you go. And I will say, Alison, as well, that the power of food to help us regulate hormones and how, as our estrogen is in decline, we start to get more cortisol, and more cortisol then, stimulates more ghrelin and leptin, which are the hunger hormones. And the cortisol, is our flight or fight hormone, which then makes us you know, produce more fat around our middle if it's in excess. But being able to control a lot of that through just eating whole foods, nutritious foods, and Alison, this is more your expertise, but I've seen it be very, very impactful in what I do with clients is taking, a really a diet really rich in whole foods, and then adding in movement and weight bearing exercise, because between the ages of 40 and 70 we can lose 30% of our muscle mass, which is a primary driver of our metabolism. So if we can get people eating right, and also getting the body moving, and also that weight bearing exercise, it can be the secret sauce. We don't necessarily need to pile on more pharmaceuticals and drugs and other things. I want to empower people to know that they can have more control over their metabolism in this stage of life.
Yeah. And I want to piggyback on what Michele said, because I watched Michele do this. Michele and I met when I first started podcasting a little over 3 years ago. I reached out to her early on. I was just drawn to what she was doing and asked if we could do a guest swap. And then we got to know each other through that. And we just clicked right away. And I started watching this journey she was going through, because we were having a lot of the same things going on. I'm a few years younger, so I get a chance to kind of like, oh, that's what's coming. Great. All right. Well, let's get ready. Okay. And so I really started watching her experience unfold and was able to see. And my mother-in-law, I want to shout her out here. God rest her soul. She passed in 2023, but she was really ahead of her time in a lot of areas, forced by the fact that she had her own health issues that really forced her to really be really outspoken and a real amplifier of her own health concerns with doctors, more so than other women felt equipped to, because she knew she had to. And she was geared that way anyway. She was fearless. She was really a woman before her time, but she was lifting weights and doing those things with her movement. She would carry weights while she walked. I mean, she would do all these things. And I was watching her do this, 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. And she was talking about it then. So that planted that seed in my head, because I was a cardio junkie for years. And so getting the weights piece back into it, I will tell you, has been really, really, really substantial for me. And getting my macros right. I didn't even know what my macros were. I heard, you hear macros and micros in these contexts, but you don't. I didn't. Maybe others do. Really fully understood what that meant. And it was really just about fueling my body properly according to how I was going about my day that day and what kind of movement I was engaged in, and realizing I was very under proteined and very over carbed, but also under on the fat and kind of not quite there, but sometimes there on the fiber. And so getting those things just in alignment. And it's not about not eating. And Alison talks about this too. It's like, no, we need to eat. We need to fuel our bodies. We just need to fuel our bodies properly. And we need to ask ourselves, the whys behind our eating, and tap into those comfort eating versus healthy eating, but not do it in a way that's making us feel like we're losing out or missing out. It's done in a very holistic, healthy way. And so, yeah, there is. So ladies, pick up your weights. I mean, I even tell my daughters now, I have 3 daughters, 26 to 30. And I'm like, and one of them specifically has brought weights back into it. A lot of it because her partner does a lot of weights. And he's like, you shouldn't let that go. That should be something that stays with you. And he's got his own mother lifting weights, because he's like, he knows, and she's about my age. And so I'm like, stay with that. I was really great with that until my mid 20s. And then I was like, I don't want to lift anymore. And I continued to run a lot and move a lot. And just didn't always love the weights part. I will tell you now, some of the weights days are some of my favorite days, because of how much stronger I feel. And yeah, so I want the readjustment of my body composition. And ladies, get rid of the idea that the scale tells the story. It does not tell the story. The scale, we have to really, I think, reintroduce ourselves to the concept of a scale and what it's actually telling us versus what we've been told it's telling us. And a
We want to
number,
be strong over skinny.
yes, yes, yes,
Strong over skinny. And I do want to say this because I don't want to hog any time, but I will say 90% of my clients, when we start working together, were under eating.
yeah,
And 1,200 calories is what a young girl should have on a daily basis. And when I have clients coming to me and they're eating 900 calories, it's like your metabolism, you're blunting your metabolism, you're under fueling yourself. And we have to shift that mindset that we have to fuel our bodies and lift weights, and it's not calories in, calories out.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And the way we look at our calories, it has to change. It's like, it's not about the number of the calories, but the kind of calories. And are you
quality.
getting the quality of the calories? So
Mhm.
much good stuff there. All right. Any questions for anyone else, Michele, before we give Troy and Debbie a chance?
So Troy and Debbie, I did figure out what it was. We were talking before we started recording, and there's people that have an iodine deficiency, which is very common. And I just thought of it, and that causes immense breast pain. And um, doing iodine supplementation doesn't always work. And so your product, I think, is fabulous because, again, it's one of those things that women may not talk about. It's like any menopause or perimenopause symptom, they may not be discussing their breast pain because it's, I don't know why people think this stuff is taboo, but yeah, I just think that's, it's like with all our other menopause symptoms, we don't talk about it enough. And
Yeah.
it just bringing this to the forefront just makes it a lot more comfortable conversation for people.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Over the last, couple years that my mom and I have really, dove into this industries within, women's health and wellness, we've just learned how prevalent, breast pain and discomfort is for whatever the reason. And like you said, it's generational. It could be women that are, experiencing menstrual cycles for the first time, all the way to, women who elderly on the other side, right, of life. And so as a guy, right, it's very important that there's an open conversation and that we're exposed to it because we don't know, plain and
Yeah.
simple. And I have learned so much. It's truly incredible that not more is being done. And I think at the very minimum, and as the first step, we need to have these conversations so that way we can figure out solutions together, right? That will help women on their journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you said something important there, Troy, that I think, you can't be empathetic and supportive about something you don't know about. And so, really, I mean, this really starts with changing the conversations and how we educate our little girls and little boys about what happens in each other's bodies and taking the taboo, oh, that's private. We shouldn't know that. Like, no, we need to know how each other operate. We can do this in a very thoughtful, engaging manner. I had a woman on a panel where we were talking about periods last week. She has this ingenious little thing. It's crocheted women's or sexual organs, period, or all the things, vagina, uterus, all the things, but it's in this like really not big thing, body naked on the wall, freaking everybody out. It is thoughtful, and she takes the different things apart and she sits with middle schoolers and explains to them the different body parts. And she's doing this in Waterford, Ireland. I'm like, this should be everywhere. Where she explains to these middle schoolers, this is this body part, this is how it works. And then it goes back together, but she's able to pull each piece out. And it's just such a less embarrassing, less kind of shocking way of having the conversation and really meeting these kids where they are. Boys are part of the conversation, and then they're excused because girls don't want to ask a lot of 12-year-olds to 14-year-olds. God only knows how we all survived middle school. I'm still figuring out. But that can be very uncomfortable. But what if we started? She talks about the fact, her name's Amy Orr. Look her up. She's going to be with me on other panels and she's going to be a guest on the podcast. But she's got a son. And so because she's talking about these things in schools, her son already understands at 9 years old that mom has monthly periods and these things happen. And sometimes in her cycle, she's a little more tired. And sometimes in her cycle, she's a little cranky. And but if she eats a certain way, it can help her. And this is what a period product looks like. This is what girls go through. And so she's introduced it to him at this younger age where he's having these really matter-of-fact educational conversations that aren't creepy, that aren't weird, that aren't, and she's not like hiding it. She's like, I'm not out here going, come on, son, mom's on her period today. We're gonna have a conversation. It's very in the life, in the moment. And as she's I think she's just turned 40. So she's starting to get into an age where she's going to be perimenopausal. So then it's opened the door to conversations of the things that happen to women's bodies moving forward. But she started this conversation in a very organic, genuine way. What if we could all approach it that way? And, because my husband said it time and time and again, he's like, we can't support what we don't know about. But it starts with how we're talked about it when we're younger. And when you said the change earlier, I remember that, like hearing that from my grandma and my mom. The change of what? What's changing? It sounds so secretive. I mean, and I will tell you, I didn't get one iota or ounce of information about any of this from the generations before me. Zero, other than I knew your period stopped. That's it. That's all I knew. And I mean, there was no conversation. And Michele knows this. I've talked to her about this before because I rail about this a lot. I never heard the word perimenopause until I was almost through it. Like, I didn't know it was a word. Like, literally, no doctor at any point brought that to me. No doctor told me when I was 38 years old and my breasts were tender and I was having breast cysts, which there was no bra to comfort me in. So thank you for that. It's going to help so many people. That was a sign of things, that my estrogen was out of balance. I mean, there just weren't these conversations happening. So the conversations, Troy and Debbie, that you're going to be opening up to women to start talking about these things, also helping their partners understand, but taking that stigma off. And Troy, thank you for being willing to be part of the conversation and not being, oh, I'm a guy, this isn't for me. Thank you for thinking enough of your mom and for women. And good job, mom, on raising an empathetic son who was curious and wanted to be a part of this adventure. So with all that, Troy and Debbie, do you have any questions for any of our other panelists?
No question, really. But, like you said, our goal is to empower women with comfort and confidence. And I was thinking back to what Alison was talking about earlier about, women just really feeling comfortable in their own skin, literally. And Kim, like looking yourself in the mirror and being the woman that you want to see. And for me, as the guy, like, yes, it is a little taboo, but we have to be comfortable from our perspective to be asking the questions, like Michele had said, right? And be open to that dialogue. And what I like to say is, we don't want breast pain to prevent you from living your breast life. So it's my corny way of saying that, we don't want that to, breast pain or whatever journey or experience you might be on to prevent you from living your best life. And so that's why we just think open conversation and open dialogue and is really key to that.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to look at all of your social media, all three of you, of course, Melissa, but I know so much that you've said I can take away personally, because I've had some surgeries and have prevented me from really working out and lifting weights. And I just am starting to get back now, and I can't wait. I can't wait to change my diet and get back in with weights. It's so important. It really is so, because you can. I always said you can work out for 6 months, and if you stop for 1 month, it seems like it's all gone. Like you lose it so much faster than you can, than you gain and keep it if you're consistent. And, I'm proof of that. And I really want to turn it around for myself, to be
Well,
here for my grandchildren, and, I've got so much more that I want to do, and be strong, and, and confident, and feel great, with how, just how I look and how I feel. I think this is wonderful. I'm so pleased and happy to be here.
yeah, yeah. A lot of great resources for everybody today. Everybody wins in this conversation today. There's so much that we have to offer each other. All right. Kim, any questions for any of our other panelists, or any more you want to say about your own work as well?
Well, I just want to circle back a little bit to something Michele said about journaling. And like, it was so important when I had clients and they were learning how to eat, whether some people were ready to learn about macros and some people were just ready, to Alison's point, to learn about good food. And we have to reach out and we have to meet people where they are. That's the biggest thing that I've learned in being a coach. Some people are ready for this step, and some people view macros as overwhelming. And so, and some people are like, oh, healthy eating is just too hard. But what we need to explain to people is things are only hard for a short period of time. It becomes who you are, and it becomes the way you like to live. And food begins to taste differently because all of the crap is gone. And once the artificial is out of your system, foods that might have been boring, all of a sudden are really, truly delicious. But with the journaling, what I helped myself and other people find out as well is the foods that we react to positively and the ones that we react to negatively. I also learned that everyone's symptoms and everyone's experiences are different. So when I go in for my yearly checkup and I say to my gynecologist, now let's really get personal. Okay, Troy, sorry, but here it comes. But, I say to my gynecologist, hey, I noticed that I have some incontinence problems every month when I ovulate. And she says, no, the two just are not tied together. But yet here I have a journal, and in my journal, I know when I ovulate. I know I just mark the days when I don't go into detail, but if I have trouble when I sneeze, or I have trouble when I laugh, and 3 months or 3 weeks during the month, I don't have trouble. And 1 week I do. Now tell me that there's no good reason for that. And if there is a good reason, help me find a solution, right, to these problems. The fear that comes to a woman in middle age, because our bodies are doing things that they've never done before. Our periods change, our breasts ache. We're at a point where many of us are worried about breast cancer, right? And because it's the time when all of our friends have gotten cancer. And so if we don't have these open conversations and we don't tell people, not that you should talk to your girlfriend versus the doctor, right? But through these conversations, I think it's so important that we learn how to talk to our doctors and how to push them just a little bit, And the one thing I wanted to talk about with Alison and Michele particularly is I'd like to hear how you guys interact with your clients who have that comfort versus healthy, or good versus bad, or clean versus dirty food mentality. Because even though I want to be healthy, I'm at a point in my life where I'm not trying to feed my kids, and I'm not, I'm not catering to everyone, so I can enjoy my meals. I can eat some really pretty delicious things, and I like to eat good food. So how do you help someone take the steps towards good health without feeling like they have to give up the world? As I know what I've done with my own clients, but I'm always interested in learning more. So
Alison, why don't you go first here? I feel like this is right in your sweet spot.
Yeah, that's a great question, Kim. I mean, each client is very individual, of course, but I take very small steps with those sort of clients that have got that mentality. This is the bad food. This is the good food. Oh, I've eaten a bar of chocolate. Oh, I feel terrible now. I shouldn't have done that. That guilt thing going on. We start from basics and we discuss, like, why do you label these foods? I don't like foods being called treats or good or bad food. Food is food, and there's nothing wrong with eating chocolate or eating a biscuit. It's just everything in moderation, isn't it? So once you say, it's kind of like when you say to a client, you can actually eat chocolate. It's okay to eat chocolate. You don't need to feel guilty. But maybe you shouldn't eat it every day. But not restricting it and saying, when it always makes me laugh when clients give me their food diaries, which I ask them to do before they work with me. And it's actually pretty useless them doing it because they don't write the truth on it. Right. When you start talking to them, all of a sudden they become like super healthy.
Like, I seriously don't see any problems here.
Yeah. I don't know why you don't.
Nutritional Therapist, so I'm going to write. I had loads of fruit and vegetables today, but when I actually get to know them and start talking to them, they'll say, "Oh, you know what? Actually, I did had like half a packet of biscuits that day and some crisps and whatever." And I'll say, "But that doesn't matter. It's step by step. It's what you do on a daily basis that is your long-term health." So, in answer to your question, is I really try to kind of give them, like, not restrict anything, but explain to them why eating more of these nourishing foods is going to make you feel better rather than eating, more of the junk foods. And it works really well, but you have to take it slowly. Because people like that, if you overwhelm them with information and try and change their whole diet at once, then they won't do anything.
Yeah. I love that. Start small, like meet them where they are, start with something that feels doable, get comfortable with that and start seeing the benefits of that. And then move them to, because Alison has post recipes and you do a great job of using a lot of different spices and herbs to flavor things in a way that you wouldn't even realize, oh gosh, that's great. I never thought about, doing it that way. And I think that has a lot to do with it too. The way that you teach people to prepare their food. I think there's a misguided idea that I'm not going to have any flavor. Nothing's going to taste good. It's just going to be this. And you really dispel that myth with what you do with them too.
Yeah, and it should be easy. I'm really into it. It has to be realistic. I understand everybody's really busy. So all my recipes are very simple. It's delicious, but easy to do. You don't have to spend hours in the kitchen because nobody has hours in the kitchen, do they? It has to be doable. Otherwise, you won't do it.
Yeah. Michele, go ahead.
Yeah. I come from that same frame of mind that Alison has. Is we're not looking at deprivation diets here. This is not a diet. It's a lifestyle. Yeah. And if I can get someone to just 80-20 rule, 80%, if you can do 80% of nutritious whole foods, you will start to naturally feel better than what you felt before. And then you're like, I now, so back to what Kim was saying, you're journaling how you're feeling and say, oh, I slept really well last night. I didn't get that sugar crash or that, I wanting a coffee at 3 p.m. because my blood sugar took a big dive, right? The only thing that I really am coaching my clients on right now, because the data is there, is alcohol. Alcohol is a slippery slope right now because we know it's associated with 7 different cancers. It is a metabolic buster. your body sees it as a toxin. Your body's going to metabolize that before it metabolizes food. And it's empty calories, and it disrupts your sleep. So I'm not saying no fun, not saying never have a glass of wine or never have that gin and tonic, but how about you have one on the weekends, and let's see how we feel. It's not like just like we do with the food. Let's see how we feel without it. And sometimes that's what it takes to sell somebody on a better lifestyle.
Does that help, Kim?
Yeah. I go through these things, and I think we're all on the same playing field. We're all, it's the hardest thing, because when you have that client come and, they want so desperately to make changes, but they have to make changes in the things that they do. You can't wish it away. You can't wish yourself into good health. And gosh, it's a shame that we can't, but I think through enjoying our food and enjoying our movement and keeping track of things and doing the things that make us feel good when we're feeling bad, even the natural things. It's so easy to turn to a pill or to a prescription, and we'll just leave it at that. Yeah. It's so easy to want the easy way, the quick way. And yes, it's hard to stay healthy when your hormones are changing. It's hard to fit into your pants. It's hard. All the things are harder when your hormones are changing. It was hard when we were 14 and our hormones kicked in, and that too for Troy. I remember when my boys were going through adolescence, and oh my gosh, their bodies didn't know what to do with themselves, and we're going through the same thing on the backside, but we're so much wiser, and we have so many experiences. If we trust ourselves, if we look back a few pages or a few months or a few years, we can often find the answer. So yeah,
I love that. And Kim and Debbie, you guys have a lot. You guys have both raised sons, so you guys can you've got that common denominator too of that experience. So you guys can share about that as well.
Yes, Melissa, I was thinking before when you sorry to interrupt, when you were saying, that you're a family of girls, so you're the flip of my experience. And my husband was also a family of boys. And so I know his mom, she was very, didn't talk about anything. And I would think, boy, did Grandma Joan talk about her breast pain, or did she talk about her periods? Or, like it was very hush hush and under the table. There was stigma and all of that. And I just think that it's wonderful. That's why I think the Healing Bra right now is at the perfect time where it's talked about, and it'll be only talked about more, women's health issues. And I just think it's great. So anyway, I'm trying to teach my husband. I don't know.
Old dogs can learn new tricks.
They can learn new tricks. It's a little more time, though, I think.
That's right. I mean, she's definitely taught me, and I've learned a lot too. And Kim, like you said, it's it's time for the children maybe to take care of our parents, right? That's our responsibility after the decades that you and my mom, right, have looked after us. And so what I'm always telling my mom now is put your own air mask on first. I don't like that expression, right, on the airplane, right? Always put your own air mask on first, and because mom just has this like innate need to just make sure that am I okay? Is everything fine? Like, and just look after me. And now it's time that, she finally prioritizes herself, and that all women are prioritizing themselves and their health and, looking into things and, for whatever it might be. And so that's why we just think it's so important, right? That women know about these different issues, or at least are, have the access to learn more, the resources that they need.
Yes. And just one more thing, to your point, Michele, about new careers. I never expected that I would be having a new career. I'm 65, so I didn't have any clue that I would be, on podcasts, and I'm thrilled to be doing it with Troy. It's a little difficult because I was like, oh, I'm going to retire now. I'm like, I have all this time. I can do all these things. And, anyway, that might get put on hold because I'm really trying to help build this brand and get this product off the ground and meet all women and people like yourselves. But anyway, there's always, something great around the corner.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you've brought that up. Thank you so much for that, Debbie, because I think it just goes back to that idea. We've got to get rid of these old stigmas and old ideas and all of the terrible narratives that are around women that are going through menopause, the change that we heard for years. Oh my gosh, she's terrible to be around. Oh my gosh, she's mentally unstable. Oh my, all these terrible things we hear, but also talking about them openly because women's experiences can be very inhibiting. It can be very difficult to work a full-time job if you've got all these things hitting you at one time and there's not a lot of empathy out there or information. Although we are in the last year, I feel like we have blown this perimenopause menopause conversation wide open because there's such a collection of us, and it always helps when you get big names and celebrities behind it because they've got the platform, and we're seeing women with these platforms having very important conversations, and that really opens the door for more people to walk through that door to dispel these myths, but also understand, as you all women today, you've got access to great resources. Menopause does not have to equal miserable, and you are hearing from a ton of women today that want to help you with that, but also too creating that empathy and understanding and taking these stigmas off what it means and that your life is just over when this happens. No, in so many ways your life's just beginning. I mean, all of us on here that are moms, our kids are grown. They're fine, I'm able to do what I'm doing now because I've got the time and space to invest in it. I'm feeling like I'm just getting started. My husband's like wanting to retire in 3 years. I'm like, well, that sounds great for you. I don't think I'm going to be there. So I mean, and he's totally fine with that. He's like, you great, you do you. I'm whatever. But I mean, I think it's very important to understand that this is a new season and new time with tons of possibilities, and these tools and resources that we're talking about today are here to amplify and help you live as your healthiest, most authentic self so you can pursue those things that are calling to you and that are open and available to you now. All right, Alison, do you have any questions or thoughts that you would like to share with any of our other panelists?
Yeah, well, what an amazing conversation. Yeah, I have. I love what Kim you said there at the end about you can't take a pill. There's no magic pill to really help. There isn't, is there? Unfortunately, there's not one thing that you can do, and I can really relate to that working in the nutritional field with supplements. There's so many people and clients, and I get asked virtually every day, "Oh, what supplement can I take? What pill can I take to help this or make me feel better?" And supplements, of course, have their place, but I always say, you can't out supplement a bad diet. If you aren't eating healthily and nourishing food like we've been talking about, you can't just take a pile of supplements, think that you're going to feel great. So it's really like we've been talking about, the long-term effects and how we have to look at everything really to feel healthy. And with Troy and Debbie, I just think it's amazing what you're doing and the conversation that's coming out, with breast care, isn't it? Looking after the breast area. And I can really relate to that working as an esthetician, as I did for many years. Working with clients, working with aesthetic treatments. And I actually live in Sweden, in Stockholm at the moment, where you would never, because as an esthetician, you do in France and Italy and all of like the southern Mediterranean countries, they do breast treatments. If you're having a facial treatment, it basically starts here and finishes under the bust area. Because why don't people look after that area? It's kind of just this forbidden area, isn't it, that nobody really talks about. And I mean, looking after the skin, looking after how you feel, with if it's breast pain that you've got, using products like hydrating, firming gels, treatments on the bust area, and the fantastic healing bra that you've got. I mean, it's just wonderful. So I think I'd love to get my hands on one of them, but you don't distribute in Europe yet, do you? So yeah, it's fabulous.
Well, we can send you one. We can get one to you. Don't worry about that.
Oh, thank you. That would be lovely.
All right. And then go ahead, Alison. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask Michele. I'm just interested, Michele, a question for you, because I see, and this is actually something when you talk about your own menopause experience, I think the worst menopause symptom for me, which is still very dominant, is cognition, like brain fog, and just like not being able to remember things, and that fuzzy feeling. I mean, it's terrible. I just wondered how you approach that with your clients that you work with.
We probably don't talk about that enough, because I'm really focused on the movement piece and just getting them to kind of shift their mindset around food. But I will say, I'm at a meeting right now, and I can't tell you how many times just in the last 24 hours I've had to look something up on my phone because I couldn't remember the name of something. Or one of my colleagues here was like, so-and-so, doing this bit. And it's real. And Kim, I have to say too, journaling, when you do have those, we call them brain farts, when you can't come up with a word and you're like, it's so frustrating, right? And I don't know if nutrition can fix that.
I know. I mean, I deal with it too. It drives me crazy. Kim, do you have any thoughts on that? Have you found anything in your work that is helpful?
I certainly know that when I move my body every day and when I eat good food, the fog is less.
That's good.
It's I'm not like I was when I was 20 and I was invincible, but I do see a difference, and I record those things. And sometimes as I even the quality of my writing, as I wrote my book and as I'm trying to be a lifelong learner and I'm trying to write a piece of fiction, my writing is better and a higher quality when everything else is hitting on point, I think.
Yeah. For me, I've noticed the sleep factor. Michele and I have had a lot of conversations about my sleep, because my sleep is an ongoing thing it's the ongoing thing we're trying to solve. And if I know that I've got to move a certain way. I've got to get up. I've got to look at the sun to get my I have to literally like open my door and look at the sun. And on a cloudy day, I'm like, oh shoot. And luckily I live in an area where there's not a ton of cloudy days. So I'm very thankful for that. Because to really like tell my circadian rhythm, all right, here we go. We're awake now. I will tell you that when I move well, when I get my steps in, when I've ate well, I sleep better and I have less brain fog. So, but it's not completely gone, but there is a pattern. So I think so if any of us crack that nut completely, we're going to come back and have a panel. I'm like, we got the answer. We figured it out. But I love going back to what Kim does on that journaling piece. And I've started doing this more mindfully too, through working with applying all these different things. I've been able to see some patterns that I've had for a long time that have disrupted me at times, because I'm like, oh, that's connected to that. I'm 55 years old and I've never put that together before. So Alison, I don't know if that helps, but
yeah, no, it's good. I mean, the one thing I find, I agree with everything that you've all been saying about it, is fat. Like you have to get in your healthy fats. That's like crucial for the brain, and drink water. I know it might sound very basic, but making sure that you're hydrated. Yeah. And I think what Michele, you were saying about alcohol, totally. I just can't drink anymore. Not even a glass of wine. makes me feel terrible and I can't sleep.
Mhm.
And, it just makes your brain fog and your focus and everything 100 times worse. So I very rarely drink now.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to just jump in there. I can see through my journals when I have a period of time where I might have a glass of wine 2 or 3 days in a row. That's when my sleep tanks.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrible. And I'm postmenopausal, but I still will wake up with night sweats if I
Oh, yeah.
have a period of time where I drink a few days in a row. But those times when I hate to say abstaining, when I'm just like skipping it or choosing something different, I sleep like a baby. And lo and behold, I don't have night sweats. So I think it's important for people to start putting all the puzzle pieces together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
making those connections.
Mhm.
I love the journaling idea behind this stuff because I think we can. Then we're selling ourselves, right? It's not Alison telling you you should be doing it. It's if we have our own data, then we're
Mhm.
selling ourselves on the concepts.
Mhm. And you can sell your doctor. That's the most important thing at our
Yeah.
age. As I deal with my older parents, and they're so compliant and they're so respectful, they don't ever question their doctors. And I'm like, gosh darn it, that's not true. This is what I'm seeing, because when I go to a doctor's appointment, guess what? I take notes on that too. And yeah, we just have to be better advocates for ourselves.
It's so true. I just want to jump into my own little personal story. We were out last night and we were at a celebration. So I celebrated a little too much, and my sleep was awful last night. Talking about waking up, my head was throbbing. I was hot. I was tossing and turning. And I said, "This is awful." And then another funny thing that I had said, going back to the brain fog, is I had said to Troy yesterday, we were talking about something. He asked me, I said, "I have no memories. That's why I need to just keep creating new ones because I can't remember." Anyway, so this is so on point for me right now. I swear I'm going to get up from here and go have some healthy food. I'm going to get some salmon potatoes. I'm changing today, ladies. You have really, really inspired me in
And
more
go
ways.
for a walk. Go for
Yes,
a walk.
I will, as soon as when we're done. So this is awesome. Thank you.
And make sure you write it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
need to
then-
journal. I need to journal more. As I'm saying, I'm like trying to take away what I can, and
Yeah.
journaling and writing everything down. I totally agree, right? And being able to track your notes, and then also, you need to be able to congratulate yourself every now and then. So looking back
Yes.
and seeing,
great.
where you've come from, and being able to take the time for, to pat yourself on the shoulder and really be proud about yourself is key. So that way, when you do look yourself in the mirror, you are happy about what you're looking, what's looking back at you. Who is.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that you hit on tracking the wins. That's something that actually my therapist a couple weeks ago, she's like, "You're really great at hitting a marker and then setting the next marker." Like, okay, great, I got here, now I want to get here. She's like, "You're not talking badly to yourself, but I want you to sit and really track your wins more." And she's like, "and all the different areas, whatever the size they are, because that's a really important part of your mental and emotional health as well." And I've done that the last couple weeks. It does make a difference. It does make a difference. Allison,
Track
any
your
other
wins.
questions or thoughts for anyone else before I'm going to give you all one more time to go around and tell people how to follow you and find you, but anything else you want to ask or point out?
No, I think I've said everything. Just one final thing that I've been doing quite a lot of research recently for a big presentation I'm doing. And when I was looking at statistics, this really goes back to everything that we were saying. This is obviously worldwide, but 90% of women worldwide feel that they are not educated in menopause.
Yeah.
90%. And obviously, this is all around the world. There are some, it's getting better in some countries, but some countries, it's still not spoken about at all. But I found that quite shocking.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just too much. And it's ridiculous, but it also makes sense when you think about we're the first generation that is forcing the conversation.
Yeah.
We are the first generation that is saying, no more. This is unnecessary. We don't have to live this way. There's a different way to approach it. And we are setting an example for our daughter-in-laws and our daughters that and they're seeing it. Like my daughters are like, I'm telling them everything, all the experiences, all the things. I'm like, these are the things you need to know. These are the things you need to watch out for. These are the questions you need to ask. This is what you need to be aware of. They are going to be, I'm like, and if it's oversharing, too bad. You'll thank me later.
You're scaring the shit out of them, Melissa. That's what you're doing.
I know. Well, but I'm also like packing it with, this is how you walk it out. Like for my middle daughter, Kylie, keep lifting those weights. That matters. And they're seeing me. I think it's really important too. They're seeing me continue to be a learner, continue to evolve and grow. They're seeing that I can be fit and healthy and strong. They have no doubt. So when we're on vacation together, mom might be the first one up the hill because she's still very fit. They don't see me as being older or unable to move. They're more like just, and that's possible. We don't have to like age assign when we're not able to do something anymore. I mean, I had a fabulous podcast episode drop on Tuesday this week with Marjorie Burns, who's 83 going on 33. And she lives this vibrant, full life. She's got a home at the base of Mount Adams in the Cascade Mountains in the state of Washington. It's a gorgeous part of the world. I grew up not far from there. And she's kayaking and cross-country skiing and hiking and walking her dogs and doing all the things. But she has moved, and she really had an interesting, she's before her time and her parents were before her time. Her parents were surfing when they were in their 70s. I mean, who else knows, who else knows baby boomers who were surfing in their 70s? I mean, it's fantastic. But why I say all that is like, these are generational changes. You follow and do what you see. We were the women here today. We were the disruptors. We said, we saw it. We didn't like it. We want to know more. So thank you all for being part of that. And for Troy for jumping in and bringing the guys with you, because it takes that to get conversations going in all of the rooms that we are in, and taking the stigmas and fear and shame and secrecy off of it. It doesn't help anyone or serve anyone to exist that way. But let's go around the room one more time, or my virtual room here, and give each of you a chance to tell people where they can find you and follow you. Listeners, don't you worry. In our show notes, on our YouTube channel, all of that information is going to be there. We're going to promote it on our socials. You're going to have access to it. But if you want to know right now, listen carefully, and they're each going to share with you how you can find them, follow them, and learn more from them. Michele, we'll start with you.
Michele Folan at AskingForAFriend_pod on Instagram. I'm on all the podcast platforms as Asking for a Friend. And you can find information on my coaching on Instagram or also on my podcast channel.
Absolutely great. Okay. Troy and Debbie.
So our website, where you can find the Healing Bra, more information, as well as some how-to frequently asked questions and videos, is thehealingbras.com. And we are on all social media platforms at The Healing Bras.
And you can purchase also, right? Also on the website.
Okay, that was my next question. So is it now available to purchase on the website?
Yes, it is available to purchase on the website, and it is. We are fulfilling all orders through our FDA regulated manufacturing partner.
Awesome. Oh, that's such great news. Okay, Kim.
Yes, I am Kim Mosman everywhere. And Instagram, Facebook, and kimmosman.com, where you'll find guest blogs and my blogs and all the information about my books. So.
Yeah. And you also help writers too. Talk about that real quick.
I do help writers. I met a wonderful woman. I'm at a point in my life where I'm starting to realize I can't do everything by myself, and I'm doing things with friends. And a friend and I created a company called Writer to Writer, and we're primarily helping new authors launch their books into the world, because that can be a crazy, daunting thing, especially when you have your own career. So, new adventure for me.
Yeah. See,
Nice.
Listen to all these new adventures. Every single woman on here is doing these things. Alison, that leads right to you, who's going to have a book soon. Another new adventure. But talk to people about where they can find you.
Yes, my website is alisonbladh.com. And then I'm on virtually all social media channels. If you look for @Alison Bladh, that's BLADH. And my book, which is coming out in May, you can go on if you go to my website, there's a waiting list there that you can actually sign up for the book. But I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of those under Alison Bladh.
And Alison posts great recipes that are really helpful and really quick and doable and good and wonderful. And you help people all over the world, right?
Yes, I do. I work worldwide I have clients from everywhere in the world. Yeah.
Okay. So
Melissa, there is on my website, there is a recipe part which has got hundreds of recipes, simple, delicious, easy, healthy, specifically tailored for women over 40.
Okay.
Nice.
Awesome. Oh, that's great. All right. You all were wonderful today. We could talk for hours, but thank you so much. Listeners out there, wow, what a plethora of resources available to you here. Let your friends know. Share this episode. It's got the resources listed in the show notes. This is how we can live in perimenopause and menopause. Don't be afraid to push your healthcare practitioners when you're not getting the answers you're looking for. You deserve to have a voice. Don't let them gaslight you. Don't let them tell you something's not connected. Get Kim's journal and take it in there and show them what you're experiencing. But let's talk about it. Talk about it with your partners. Talk about it with your sons. Talk about it with your brothers. And if they're uncomfortable, start with something small. Don't freak them out with the big things. Don't go in there and I'm going to tell you how my body works from starting here and here. Let's start small. Let's bring them in gently, because to their, point, that hasn't happened. But let's bring them along, and show them the way and be open. And if they're not willing, well, then that's their loss, and hopefully they'll change their minds. But be very mindful about these conversations. And the communities that are available to you to talk about these things. I thank you so much to all of you for being here with me today on Together We Feel. I love these panels. They bring so many resources and so much value to our women out there. Women, we can live with empowerment, embracing our layers, because these kinds of resources and conversations are happening. And this is here to empower you to do so. Take care and have a great week.
Thank you.